Student member Sheikh, you came to us in the middle of a crisis, a pandemic. Most of us first met you for the first time via Zoom. And that's how we did most of our meetings. Most students your age would have been intimidated by being on Zoom with all of us. You came in with a roar. Not a bad roar, a good roar. You were just what we needed. You have completed so much in your short time on this board. And just to mention a few of these items, you organized student-led meetings with board members and had us engaged with students at our own sites. And you wrote an extensive resolution on reopening. We congratulate you for this work. You are not afraid to speak up. Don't ever lose that voice. You are amazing. When I see you speak at board meetings, I'm often in just awe. And I think to myself, I want to be student member Sheikh when I grow up. So just be proud of that work that you've done. And we cannot wait to see what comes next. You will be missed fiercely on this board. And we're really looking forward to seeing and please don't forget about us, because we want to see what comes next. So with that, I'd like to present you with a district apple and a card from our board. Would you like to say a few words before we ask board members?
Thank you. Oh, I get to sit in the president's chair. Let's see, is this on? I've been thinking about this specific item since my very first meeting, so I'm very excited to finally unload all the thoughts that I collected on Google Docs throughout the year. Oops.
So they're typing new notes.
So on the night of July 29th, 2020 at 10:41 p.m., I received an email that made it impossible to sleep the entire night. I cried, I tossed and turned, I kept reading it back to myself thinking that it might have been imagined. As the sun began rising, despite not having slept, I felt immense energy, something I put into use in a 20-mile bike ride from my South Sac home to the Capitol and back. In hindsight, this was probably practice for some of our longer meetings. When I reached home, the email was still there. The Sac City Student Board member Olivia Ang Olson wrote to me that I had been selected to serve as her successor. Growing up, my mother taught me that education was a ladder up. You know, we were an immigrant family working. My mom stayed at home. My dad worked minimum wage as a taxi driver. Public education was something we couldn't have accessed back in India, which was one of the many reasons we came to this country. And so it's been an incredible honor and privilege to further that dream for myself and for hopefully some students in this district as a member of this board over the course of the past year. And as much as I've tried to raise a light to the flaws of our system in serving students inequitably and in many ways failing our students, it's important to highlight how blessed we are to have a public education system that's free, and that there are thousands of people in this district specifically dedicated to making it better. As a Sac City student, I'm incredibly lucky to have the experiences of the past few years and of the past year specifically. Ed Code 35012 establishes this position that I was singing over there as a bridge between the student body and the Board of Education, between district administration and district staff. As much as the elected trustees who are joining me up here may or may not have the students in their mind, at the end of the day, they represent the voters, parents and families and other adults. And as much as parents might be invested in their children's educations, they don't walk the halls on a daily basis and don't live and breathe the decisions of this board like students do. And so I've tried as much as I could to represent the experience of walking the halls, even when we weren't in the halls, as faithfully as I could, while simultaneously working to be a full member of the board, in the words of that Ed Code statute. And it's taken a lot of work, especially for a position that has been historically put in the corner in a lot of districts and tokenized, including in this district, as an easy way to check a box of student engagement, or say, look, here's a student. And so as this board and district moves into the next year with the new SPM, I have some words for everyone. I hope that more can be done to ensure that this position will get the resources and assistance that it needs. Coming in, I had incredibly little onboarding and guidance, and I know that's part of that is because our Board of Education's office had to downsize. But I think workshopping, and I'm working on this personally, is teaching our incoming student board members on how to introduce action, how to write legislation, how to understand Ms. Ramos's presentations. In addition, I have written thousands of emails over the course of high school and hundreds of them from my district email account. And there were times during my tenure where I raised concerns to staff and board members, and there was the promise of a circle back, and then nothing happened. And so I understand that this is an incredibly busy district, but I feel like I would have appreciated a little bit more of that engagement and work. And I don't fault anyone, but I feel like moving forward, it would be helpful for us to give our student board member that. In addition, there were a lot of things that were just not thought about because this position isn't necessarily thought of as a board member. And so having to argue over the course of weeks to receive unconfidential board communication, something that I'm glad I achieved, but took work that shouldn't have needed to be taken. And there were times when I said things on the dais that were entirely uncontroversial, statements of what students were experiencing in this district, whether that was a deficit of communication or other things during the pandemic. And then youth development would tell me that high-level staff or other staff had said, please tell this person not to say that. And I feel like that's entirely inappropriate, and it lit a fire in me to say all kinds of things if I felt they were true. And I feel as though the student board member has a unique voice, and going forward, that voice should be something that we don't shy away from thinking that they might be wrong, but at least hearing them out. In addition, I've been in a number of events where the legitimacy of the position seems very shaky. And I admit that it might be. But when you're in an event with numerous board members and you keep counting the number of board members as whatever it is minus the student board member, I just feel like it does a disservice to the system. In addition, as I leave this district as a student and a student board member, there are some things I see that trouble me. This past year, I've gotten to work with 9 colleagues, I think, and it's been a pleasure working with every single one of you. But it's been rough seeing the constraints that are put on the elected board by the political reality of a labor partner or 2 labor partners maybe targeting anyone who deserves or who dares to stand up for fiscal realism or who dares to acknowledge the facts, and to see labor not collaborate but rather dictate a alternate view of the reality, much like Kellyanne Conway. It's really distressing and painful. This district is very, very lucky to have students and parents that are uber dedicated. I mean, the parents that we see in public comment time after time after time, I can name some of them: Renee Webster Hawken, Sarah Williams Kingsley, Angie Sutherland, the list goes on. Students as well, the Student Advisory Council. But at this point, so many of them feel as though their voices fall on deaf ears year after year. I know that I've mentioned before the first LCAP PAC meeting of this year where everyone had to throw up the agenda and couldn't even cope with the way that we were discussing the same things over and over again and nothing was happening. And we've can't be allowed to further discourage the people who care so much about their kids' education, about the education of other kids, by continuing to exist this way. In addition, the language of our politics should change. There have been accusations that mental health has been used as a buzzword this year. I don't think it has been, but I can understand where that comes from, because when you keep using words like equity and mental health and not seeing any changes on those fronts, it becomes tiresome. In addition, equity has sort of become this obsession without a clear definition. People mean different things by this. People have different approaches to this. In some ways, it's just correcting the wrongs that we have perpetuated for far too long. And in other ways, it's a Harrison Bergeron view of allocating resources and cutting them in other ways. And so we can't allow that to happen. But I would like to end on a far less dire note, which is that I have been so humbled by the past year with every single one of you in this room, and the hundreds of students and parents who have supported, criticized, emailed, phoned, texted, heckled maybe over Zoom. And so by name, I'd just like to thank a couple of our staff. Mark Carnero, who's in youth development, who guides our student advisory council year in, year out, has been an incredible mentor, and has really prepared me in some ways, although there was nothing that could prepare me. Victoria Flores, Victoria Flores is a hero, I think. She has been an incredible sense of a person of support in the work that we've done on mental health this year and supporting students when they were completely isolated. I commend Manpreet Kaur, our director of youth development, who I've called numerous times over dinner past 9 p.m., which I try really hard not to do, just to sort of make sure our underrepresented students are included. Anne Moretti, who was the first person I was in contact with in this position, and there was a lot to get done, whether it was putting up a photo in the first room or getting business cards or getting a phone and iPad, and all of that. Anne has always been an email away. Sheila DeMondon, who filled in for Anne, was incredible. Superintendent Aguilar, I wasn't allowed to be in the vote today for your evaluation, but undoubtedly it would have been without a skip, a positive evaluation. Your dedication, your intelligence, your incredible skill in handling everything that this district faces, I'm just in awe of. I hope that you stick around for a long time, because God knows this district needs it. Chief Academic Officer Christine Bieda, who helped me out along with Ann Collins on our resolution committing to a reopening. And then I have some words for our colleagues. Mark Twain wrote in one of his books, a travel book, that in the first place, God made idiots. That was for practice. Then he made school boards. I'm a cynical person, and so a couple years ago, I might have suspected that was true. After this year, I know it's not, at least outside of San Francisco. But I would like to thank every single one of the colleagues I've had the chance to serve alongside. President Pritchett, texting you while you're in closed session or anything else. The Student Advisory Council meeting you showed up. Every single person in your area knows how dedicated you are to your constituents. And I have a teacher who was very, very proud to tell me that he voted for you. So that's something. Members Rhodes and Garcia, our Sunday spent on community engagement for AB 86. I'm going to miss that. Member Morawski, from our very first sort of months working on near peer supports and the mental health support resolution and all sorts of other things. It's been great to have an ally on that topic all this year. And then I'd like to especially recognize former members Minnick and Ryan, who have also been incredible supports. I wouldn't have applied were it not for the pandemic, because it was truly boredom at the end of the day that made me click on that Google form. But I wouldn't have applied were it not for Michael Minnick, who one day DM'd me on Twitter saying, you might want to consider this job. I'd also like to thank our principal at the Met, Denise, and my advisor, Chris, both of whom brought the idea of the Student Advisory Council to me back when I was a freshman, who couldn't imagine anything like this. And I'd like to thank especially our Student Advisory Council rep from West Campus, Abby Morioka, who's one of the people insane enough to watch these meetings, as well as my teacher at the Met, Josue Guzman, who also watches these faithfully. If I were not in the room, I probably wouldn't do anything near that. And so I am just incredibly humbled, honored, and grateful for everything that has happened over the past year. It's been rough, but it's been the honor of a lifetime. And I'm really excited to unbox that apple.
The honor of asking for public comment.
Absolutely. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We do. We have 4 public comments, and the first public comment is from Daniel Darby.
Hi, Mr. Darby.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So Board Member Sheikh, I just want to say, although I have disagreed with some of your viewpoints, I have always found you to be engaged. You have always had logical questions, and you have always stated your viewpoint with conviction. Those are some great qualities of a board member, I feel. But most importantly, I come to these meetings because I care about the district and its students, and I would like my voice to be heard. And I felt that you have heard me. And I want you to know that I appreciate that. So with that, I hope you have much happiness in your life and great success. And I just want you to know that I appreciate your service to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darby.
Our next speaker is Gwinnett Bird.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. So I'm a parent of 2 in the district, and I just wanted to chime in and say, wow, I have been following these meetings all year, and I've been always just completely blown away by how professional our student board member has been. He's always insightful, articulate, well-spoken, thought-provoking, professionally dressed. He really enhanced the discourse. He always asked excellent questions. There was one point at which I said out loud, he always speaks truth to power. And I just love that. I mean, you're just so impressive and such an asset to this board. You even hung in there during those wee hours, every board meeting. So I know you'll go far, and I really want to wish you the best. And thank you so much for giving of your time to this board this year. You've been such an asset. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bird.
Our next speaker is Michael Minnick.
Hello, I am Michael Minnick, former colleague on the Board of Education of Board Member Sheikh. I want to take this opportunity to thank and appreciate Issa Sheikh for the amazing job he's done as a student board member. Really, as a board member in entirety, not student or not. Issa, you have done an incredible job representing students, but you've also represented all of us. You've been this voice of reason and honesty. I learned a lot from you in our time together on the board. My only sadness is that because of the pandemic, we never got a chance to sit there on the dais together. But I'll take a Zoom meeting over nothing if it meant the chance that you and I got to work together. I'm so proud of you and the work you've done in this role. I know you're going to go on and do amazing things, and I'm looking forward to watching and supporting you. Just know that you will always have a fan over here. So I want to thank you, Board Member Sheikh.
Thanks, Michael.
Our final speaker is Renee Webster Hawkins.
Board Member Sheikh, happy graduation, and thank you for your service. Anyone who spends 5 minutes with you is persuaded of your leadership skills, your intellectual prowess, and most importantly, your emotional quotient, which all 3 of which are far beyond which most adults ever achieve in their lifetime. My son attended one of your town halls this year. And the demonstration of your leadership is that you're not just someone who can grasp policy, analyze, provide recommendations to leaders. You also send the ladder down. My son, who is humble and who has worked hard just to find his place in the public education system, was so persuaded by you and your late leadership that he did the same thing you did a year ago. Late one night, he opened up that Google survey to apply for the Student Advisory Committee, and he is going to be on the cabinet next year, and that's precisely and only because of you. So kudos to you. Good luck. Thank you to your family for giving you up for all of these hours this year. And I wish you the very best. I hope our paths cross in the future.
Thank you, Renee, and congratulations to Jeremy.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you. You certainly make our district proud. I'm so glad to say you're a product of Sac City Unified. As so many of the speakers said, you are smart, articulate, hardworking, and you're a natural leader and an inspiration, as we've heard today. I want to thank you for all your hard work to make sure that we on the board hear the student voice. And even though you weren't physically walking the halls, it's really as if it didn't matter, because virtually you were walking those halls and you let us know about the student needs. I also had the opportunity of working with you on the student listening sessions and on enhancing community engagement and outreach. And I was always, just very impressed with all of your thoughtful comments and obviously your amazing questions. So, you were an instrumental part of that product. You're an impressive young person, and so I know you will do great things in the future. I do wish you the best in college, and I do hope that you share with us, remind us where you're going to college. So I'm looking forward to hearing and following your journey, because I know you're going to do some pretty amazing things. Thank you. Thank you for sticking with us in this crazy, crazy year.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I can't just echo enough all of the positive comments that everyone has made. Students could not have had a more courageous, more dedicated, smarter, more perceptive leader in the right place at the right time to really inspire all of us, and you have. And I just thank you for using your voice. It's a powerful one. Just keep using it. Keep speaking truth to power, as Ms. Bird said. And I just can't wait to see, what happens next. Don't let the pressure get to you. but it really is. You're a very special person, and I just thank you so much for sharing yourself with us. Keep in touch.
I just want to say thank you again to Student Board Member Sheikh. I had the privilege this afternoon to introduce Student Board Member Sheikh to a group of statewide superintendents, as well as higher ed researchers and foundation program managers from across the state and nation. And as I said to the group, I have not often met somebody at this age who has the ability to unpack very difficult, complicated policy matters. And believe it or not, Member Sheikh and I have not spent a whole lot of time. So that is not the result of us talking to him about those kinds of things. He is just a very, very gifted leader. And Member Garcia, just a reminder for everybody, I did say this when I introduced him, he will be headed to Notre Dame, and I figure that from there he'll head a little bit more east, somewhere near Pennsylvania Avenue in the future. But I do hope that he'll then come back west to his hometown because we would absolutely welcome you back.
As you can tell, you've made an impact on all of us, so thank you for your commitment. And I'd like to present you with your plaque from the dais. And I know this is going to be a late night for us, but I'd like to take a 5-minute recess to celebrate with our student member Sheikh, for a 5-minute recess, and then we'll come back to you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm calling us back to order. Thank you for indulging us in the quick recess. It's always nice to celebrate our outgoing board members. All right, so where were we? Let's see. All right, item 9.2, resolution number 3212, resolution on use and